Good morning. You are listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RowellAuctions.com, as they are the host of this program. Additionally, the show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country. We've got lots of topics today. Want to talk about the 14,000 government surplus properties that are being bantered around in Washington, D.C. right now. This is something that President Obama first brought up. Let me see. Last year, State of the Union, he said there was 14,000 properties that could be sold and save the taxpayer billions of dollars. So I've been following up on it. We've had 3 different congressmen on the radio show. That would be Congressman Denham, Congressman Long, and Congressman Duncan, all talking about government surplus properties, all talking about the fact that they need to be sold, because not only will they bring in money for the deficit that we have, which is exceedingly big, and number 2, but it will also save money for the taxpayers, because these properties are very, very expensive to hold. I always talk about the property in Washington, D.C. that is the post office. Been vacant for 10 years at a cost of $6 million a year to keep, maintain, secure, and that's $60 million that you and I as taxpayers have paid for. Didn't even know about it, but we paid for it. And these are the kind of things, I mean, that is an exception to the rule, but there's a lot of properties that are high-end like that are available. They're just sitting there, and the government does not need. They've already gone out to everybody and said, hey, do you need this property? Do you want this property? The answer is no to all the other federal agencies. And so there's properties out there, we'll be talking about them today, that need to be sold for a variety of reasons. We've got somebody calling in from Miami that you'll enjoy, a real estate expert, and somebody that can talk about what happens when a property just sits there. What happens to the area? What happens to the value? Why are the costs so big? So I'm looking forward to that. This program, the radio show mission statement, is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. Our guests are real estate VIPs from bankruptcy attorneys, real estate media, real estate brokers, professionals, auctioneers, government officials, former bankers. We have a lot of people that call in that have done auctions with me before, that know about what's happening in the arena and real estate across the country. We've probably had, I'm going to say 20 different states call in to tell us about their different area. You know, from California to Texas to Colorado, New Mexico, Massachusetts, Maine, and again, we're in Florida, so we get a lot of Florida call-ins that tell us what's happening in Florida, and in particular, the Miami area seems to be really moving strong, and again, we've got a guest that will be calling in and talking about that. One of the things that has come up, which I'm very excited about, is that there's going to be a congressional hearing in Miami on Monday, August 6th. I think it's going to be around 10 a.m. and it's going to be chaired by Congressman Denham. I spoke to you about him before. He's been on a radio show. He sponsored H.R. 1734, which is to sell some of these surplus properties. It was passed by the House. Now it's in the Senate. But he's actually going to go down to Miami and have a congressional hearing probably close to the courthouse there that's been abandoned for some years. Let me get you the name of that. I think it's called the David Dyer Courthouse, which is right downtown. Big old place. And what's happened is David W. Dyer Federal Building in United States Courthouse. So that's what I hope to be talking about today. Also, I've got information that the real estate market in Miami seems to be just, moving and grooving. Let's have our first caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doc Dennison. This is Rosendo Caveiro.
Rosendo, how are you doing, sir?
Wonderful. How are you doing today?
Well, good. You're down in beautiful Miami, Florida. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what firm are you with?
I am with Cushman & Wakefield, and my team specialty is multifamily, which means the sale of apartment buildings,
okay,
fractured condominiums in bulk, and land for the development of either apartments or condos.
Okay, well, we have, as you know, we have a lot of real estate professionals that may know what you're talking about, but we also have public, general public. What is a fractured condo?
Fractured condo is simply the unsold units of a condominium project.
Okay.
Where the owner or developer of those unsold units decide to sell the inventory that's unsold all at once. In other words, all the units in one transaction rather than a unit-by-unit sale.
Okay.
And there are some advantages to that and some disadvantages.
So I guess the situation is, and correct me if I'm wrong, let's say there's this is 100-unit property, and they were going to sell it unit by unit as condos, and all of a sudden the boom faltered, and so you've sold, let's say, 20 of them, and now you've got 80 units left. And what do? Do you rent them out? Which upsets the first 20 owners? Do you try to sell them at a discount? What do you do? Is that kind of the problem that a fractured condominium development has?
Yeah, that's one of I won't call them problem, but issues that come to the surface, and many times. In some situations, the developer will keep them as rentals.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've noticed, and through our experience, sometimes that developer is not a property manager per se.
Okay.
Renting apartments or renting condos as apartments is a very different business than developing apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do it. Not everybody does it well. That's one issue. The other issue is maybe the developer is under some pressure from their lender.
Yes.
Which is usually the case.
Right.
And therefore, the lender, in a sort of a nice but forceful way, says, "Hey, we need to get some cash.
Yep.
You need to either bring your loan up to date, or let's go recover as much as we can from what is owed." And therefore, that developer is somewhat forced to sell the unsold units in a bulk format.
Well, Rosendo, that brings a good question. Probably 3 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, lenders were very hesitant in taking the property back. They did not want, it on their books. They did not want the liability. They did not want to become property owners. You know, they're in a busy business of lending. Has that changed? Because I know you're going to tell us about the Miami market, but you know, people tell me the Miami market is doing pretty well. Are lenders now saying, you know what, we're gonna spend the money on the foreclosure, we're going to take it back? Has there been any change in the last few years?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
The lenders are still trying to do it themselves.
Okay.
In many cases, what they'll do is they will not market, but somehow make it known that they will consider a short sale.
All right.
One option.
Okay.
To the sale of the existing loan. Okay, but few times will they consult a professional that specializes in this kind of business to help them with the disposition of the unsold units. Mm-hmm. We have not seen that like we saw back during the last, back in the 90s when we had a similar situation. And what we're seeing, and this is fairly it's visible, it's provable, mm-hmm. They're leaving, as we say in the business, money on the table by not creating a competitive environment and actively marketing those unsold units to a wide range of prospective buyers from across the country or even internationally, depending on the type of property and the size of property.
Well, South Florida is just a gateway to, it used to be just South America, but it seems like you're getting money in from everywhere. Everybody wants to grab a piece of the beautiful sunshine in South Florida, I think.
That's Doug. You're absolutely right. We put together a list of high-end, what we call high-end development sites. Mm-hmm. In Miami, not just South Florida, in Miami. And I'm looking at 7 transactions that have closed within the last year or about to close. Mm-hmm. And the prices that are being paid for these prime sites are just something we have not seen since the boom days. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, out of the 7 transactions that we identified,
right,
6 of them are from foreigners. And out of those 6, it's from all over the world, from as close as Canada to as far as Malaysia to as far as Turkey to Argentina to Spain. So it's you're right. Miami has gotten not so much the Latin America or South American attention of those investors, but it's a worldwide interest that there is in Miami for really special sites for developing multifamily.
Why do you think that's so, Resenda?
It's still cheap. Mm-hmm. It's still very inexpensive to own a prime piece of property in Miami vis-a-vis other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, it's safe to invest your money in the U.S. versus other parts of the world.
Okay.
In
other words, if you invest it in some part of the world where one regime topples another, or their money system goes down the tube, you're going to lose all your investments. So it's safer in the USA.
Like that. Yeah, I mean it's just it's less risk.
Okay, less risky.
Less risk for that investor. Europe is having their issues right now. Mm-hmm. So we are getting money from European countries. Mm-hmm. Latin America always has an issue in one country or another. So we're having investors from Argentina, from Mexico, from Venezuela, investing in real estate down here in Miami.
And you were kind enough to send me the list of the high-end development transactions. These all look like, I'm going to say, trophy properties or trophy areas that a lot of them Miami Beach, a lot of them in areas that are considered, ooh, wow, what a nice property, but the prices are pretty big, I mean, amazingly big.
And that's why when I started seeing this trend, I started researching, and I said, I'm seeing a trend here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's really look into this. And sure enough, it was very easy to identify at least 6 to 7 transactions. By the way, the list you have is missing one transaction, but I'll update it for you on Monday. But anyway, it was just a trend, and I can see 1 or 2, but when you see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 transactions, it's big numbers. It just caught my attention. I go, this is something that I'm seeing that I've not seen before in my 21 years that I've been doing commercial real estate.
And these are mostly for condominiums or for apartment buildings. Is that pretty much the same? Well,
these are all, I would say, for luxury, high-end condominiums, and with some of them with mixed use, in other words, with some type of commercial use on the ground floor.
Okay. And we're seeing a lot more of that. That kind of started maybe 10 years ago, where a lot of commercial on the bottom, maybe even a couple of floors, and then the high-end condo situation, and that's continued to grow, that plan.
Yeah, particularly. Well, one, it's being required by some cities.
Okay.
Like
Why?
the city of Miami will probably strongly encourage you to have some type of commercial use on somewhere in the building. Obviously, it will be the ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
The Coral Gables Central Business District area is also encouraging mixed use. The emphasis there is to have people live and do their shopping, do the things that we normally do without having to leave their condo or apartment and drive. In other words, where you can go downstairs and have a coffee shop, or there's a cleaners, or there's a little small boutique grocery store, that kind of thing, and encouraging that type of development. More so than just straight up, residential tower with no retail, where you have to get in a car and drive somewhere.
Have dinner there and all that kind of good stuff.
And if you can visualize let's say something in the central business district of any municipality,
mm-hmm.
where you have high rises and you have these kinds of services, and in every other building within a block or a few blocks,
mm-hmm.
you can see there'll be some synergy there.
Yes.
And which is what we're seeing on Brickell. If you notice now, the Brickell area, many of those buildings will have some type of commercial use, and then you also have some retail that comes with it, and where people now just kind of walk, and they'll go shopping or what have you without having to get in their car.
Has downtown Miami flourished a little bit in this time of, I guess, building and I believe Miami's attempt is try to, get people using businesses more downtown and staying and having dinner, all that kind of stuff. Is there any progress on that front?
Yes, there is. I mean, we still have a long ways to go. People still like to have their cars, but as parking becomes more scarce, as properties become more expensive, I think the trend will be maybe to have less parking. And once you're forced to have less parking, you can have less cars in a household, and which means, these type of commercial uses on ground floors will become a lot more popular.
So to take it one more step, kind of like in New York, I mean, not many people have cars because it's so expensive, and it's there's no parking, and you can't get from A to B and try to find a parking space. So everybody takes cabs and public transportation. You think Miami is going that way?
That's the trend. That's the intent.
Okay.
Like I said, we're still far away from that.
Sure.
And again, hopefully we'll see it in our lifetime, but it's getting there. I think the younger people are more adaptable to that. People that come from either big cities in Latin America or in Europe are for sure very adaptable to that and very used to that.
Yeah.
As Miami becomes more international, you will be seeing people that say, "Hey, yeah, I don't need a car," or a husband and wife, "We don't need two cars. We can just keep one, and then maybe have a moped or something, or a bicycle."
Well, what about those Miami Heat? Man, what a PR thing that is for the city.
That is, there was a lot of pressure on the team, a lot of pressure on the coach, a lot of pressure on the players, and a lot of pressure in the community to win the NBA.
We want a winner, they're saying.
Yeah, we want a winner. Yeah. There's no other option. Yeah. And the team came through and did very, very well, and we're very happy.
And you guys had a parade down the middle of Miami on Monday, did you?
It was on Monday. Yeah, I didn't go down, but I saw it from the 28th floor of my building. I saw the parade and brought in a lot of people. It really united the city. Even people who are not basketball fans like myself got into the whole hype, and I almost watched every other game.
Nice.
And incidentally, it was a big economic boost for the city too.
In what way?
People made it. People who normally wouldn't go out during the week, A.
Okay.
Or B, normally wouldn't go out to a sports bar, B.
Okay.
We're flooding these places, during the week, during the playoffs. And again, many of these games were at 9 o'clock at night, Eastern time.
Yep.
Which means the game wasn't over till midnight. But bars did really well, sports places did very well. I think everybody who had a TV and serve beer and burgers did very well. Everybody just really literally came out and supported the team, even if you weren't a basketball fan.
Well, very, very nice. Rosendo, we're going to go for the middle of the show break, and I'm hoping you stay on. I want to talk about more of the Miami market. I want to talk about our past in real estate auctions. You and I have been very successful in that area. I also want to talk about government surplus properties, what's happening in Washington, and actually a congressional hearing that's going to be coming up in Miami early next month, and what kind of impact that will have, and I'm pretty excited about that. Can you hold on, and we'll shoot a couple commercials out there so we can pay for the show, and then we'll continue talking about this?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. We are talking to Rosendo Cavero, Senior Director of the Multifamily Advisory Group, Cushman and Wakefield of Florida, in Miami, Florida. He and I have been friends for probably 20-plus years, maybe even more, and we've done a lot of real estate auctions, a lot of transactions together. He is the man in South Florida as far as it comes to multifamily. We're going to be talking to him after this break. He is going to give his insight and his input on what's happening down in South Florida. Thank you for listening. We're going to go for a quick break, and we will be right back. All right, we are back listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison. We have on the show Rosendo Cavero, Senior Director from the Multifamily Advisory Group of Cushman and Wakefield of Florida, down in Miami, Florida. And Rosendo, you still with us?
I'm here, Doug.
Great. We talked in the first half hour of the show, we talked about what's happening in South Florida, how some major transactions are taking place with monies that you guys haven't seen in a long time, which just goes to show what's happening in South Florida. Again, 3 or 4 years ago, 6 years ago, Miami looked like a wasteland. You saw all of the buildings stopped. You saw all of the unfinished condos. There were literally thousands of unsold condos. What's happened? Because it's just been a great turnaround.
The recovery has really surprised everybody. I wasn't terribly surprised.
Okay.
To be honest with you, but in 2008, 2009, when things were really, really bad,
Right.
I was speaking with Eric Kalis of the Daily Business Review, and of course, all the articles back then were about doom and gloom and what we're going to do with these 23,000 units that were built in the Miami Central Business District, and who's going to occupy those? We have a 15-year inventory, blah blah blah.
Yep.
And I go, Eric, what if that didn't really happen? And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, yeah. He goes, tell me about it. He goes, well, it may not happen. He goes, can you write something and tell me, so I could maybe publish it or something? And I never did. I never did. But I thought for sure that we were going to recover. Well, I wasn't sure we were going to recover, but I didn't think we were going to have the issue, or it wasn't as bad as people had predicted in the media. And of course, 3 years from there, or 2 years from there, here we are with 23,000 units almost fully absorbed, either as sold units or as occupied rented units.
Mm-hmm.
And the occupied rented units are doing very well if you're an investor, because the rents that people are paying are very, very high rents that we haven't seen again in this community, which prompts, which basically leads to the next trend, and that is the development of high-rise luxury rental buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing a trend there. And a very positive trend. Investors and developers saying, hey, if we can, now that we don't have to compete with the condo guys, as much as we did back in 2003,
Right.
4, and 5,
Yep.
maybe this is a good time to come into the market and build luxury rentals, because a lot of these unsold condo units are renting very, very well. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing institutional developers, domestic U.S. developers, getting into the luxury rental market down here in Miami, and and also in Broward, but more so in Miami.
Is multifamily like the leading star in the area of investments down there?
By far.
By far.
For several reasons. One, demand.
Mm-hmm.
Two, there's money. Money in the form of capital. Money in the form of banks loaning,
which was not the case 3 or 4 years ago.
It was not the case almost a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So so you have demand, you have the money, and you have the banks loaning the money. So that's been the really positive things that have fueled this particular new trend. Whereas, in an office, it's a different story. In the retail product, a little different story. Industrial, I would say, would be probably number 2 behind multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, multifamily right now is the shining star.
Well, before I forget, why don't you tell us how people can get a hold of you? We'll do it at the end of the show, too. But you really are the source for multifamily down in the South Florida area. Give us some contact information for Urasenda.
Yes. Again, Cushman and Wakefield. My office is in Miami. My phone number is 305-533-2877. And that's the best way to reach me via phone. Via email will be rosendo.cavedo@cushwake.com, and that's ROSENDO.CAVEIRO@CUSHWAKE.com.
Very good. When you're talking to that reporter and kind of giving him a hint that your feeling was that it was going to turn around a lot quicker, that's based on your experience. You've been in several different downturns of markets and kind of know, you got to make money on the high end when everything is going wonderful, but you also need to figure out a way to make money when it's the downtime. And you've done that in several downturns in the market. When was those? What time frames are those?
The very first one was right when I changed careers from a CPA into commercial brokerage, and I was in the early 90s,
Mm-hmm.
where it seemed like it was not the right time to change careers. Go from a very nice salary to strictly commissions and no salary. But it was something. Real estate was something I've always enjoyed, and I was able to use my accounting background and just contacts and a will to succeed that helped me get through that period. And one of the things that I focused on back during that downturn in the early 90s was speaking with banks, and all kinds of financial institutions like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, etc.
Uh-huh.
And looking into the inventory of properties that they were taking over. So that got me through that period of time and did fairly well, which was when we met, by the way, Doug.
We met during those times. I can't really remember exactly how, but I do remember our first deal.
Yes.
And our first deal was an RTC deal, which for those of you who are a little younger, it's the Resolution Trust Corporation, which was the plan to bail out all of these savings and loans that went under in 1990, 1991, and there were literally hundreds and hundreds of banks or savings and loans that went down with a whole bunch of properties, and they needed to be sold, and they went to auctions, and there was one property down in South Florida, South Miami area, and we reached out to you, and we had a great auction. Can you give the listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a very, very challenging property to sell. In addition to the terrible economic times that we were facing, this property, which was, I forgot how many units, but easily about 400 rental units, had just been destroyed by Hurricane Andrew, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
And the property was basically the four walls and, in some cases, partial roofs, in some cases the entire roof, but it was pretty much vacant, with needing a lot of work. In an area which back then, that was down in South Dade by off of Coral Reef Drive, which back then there was not a lot of development that far south.
Mm-hmm.
So you had different challenges in addition to the economic times or in the condition of the property. 3, it was an unproven market. But we were able to orchestrate a fairly successful auction and sold it at a price that exceeded the expectations of the Resolution Trust Corporation.
Well, it was great working with you, and after that, I think we did 3 or 4 other auctions down in the Keys, throughout the state of Florida, Fort Lauderdale. So we've been busy. I'm gonna guess that we probably sold in excess of $30 million together in real estate auctions, and sometimes I hired you, sometimes you hired me, and we got together, and again for the benefit of the client. I want to bring now the fact that since you've had this government experience with the FDIC and the RTC, there are 14,000 government surplus properties that are basically unused, and the government has them. President Obama a year ago in 2011, his State of the Union, and then follow up in the State of the Budget address, said, hey, we got these 14,000 properties. They're varying in size and value, but they're not needed. and they're not needed, and we need to sell them to save billions for the American taxpayers. And there's a two-pronged thing here going on. Number one, if you sell these properties, and these properties are not, by the way, houses. This has nothing to do with Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae. These are all warehouses, office buildings, parcels of land, that kind of thing. And if we can sell them, number one, there's going to be money going into the coffers for the deficit, which is sorely needed, as you know. But the second thing, and really what I want to talk to you about, is that it costs money to keep a property maintained, even though it's vacant. And I always bring the example of the post office in Washington, D.C., that it's been vacant for 10 years, and it costs the government $6 million a year. So that's $60 million that you and I have spent as taxpayers unknowingly on that one property, and there's more like that. Why is there so much monies? Because the public probably doesn't understand what it costs for the holding cost of a property.
Yeah, Doug, that's a very good point, and it's something that I hope it gets resolved in Congress, because you're right, there is a lot of money just sitting there, not being used. If anything, there's money being wasted.
Wasted, yes.
By maintaining this property, because again, let's take for instance an empty office building. You say, well, there's no cost. There's nobody there, so you don't have to maintain it. Well, sure, you got to maintain it. You know, you have first of all, you have to guard it somehow, or keep it in a way that people don't break in and start living there.
Okay.
So that means you have to securitize the property either with human beings or with some other means, like boarding it up, etc. Which in some communities may not allow you to board something up like that because of the aesthetics of it.
Right.
So therefore, you have to securitize it. There's a cost to that. In many cases, you need to run the air conditioning or the heater, depending on the location, to maintain the property so you don't accumulate mold or some other things. You know, you have in some cases have to pay taxes on it, real estate taxes.
Right.
So you know there's a lot of other costs that go into maintaining an empty building that people don't realize, and that's in those situations that's money that's coming out of the taxpayer's pocket to maintain those buildings. Then if there's no plan by government to use it, you might as well go ahead and sell it.
Yes.
And sell it now.
Well, what they've done is they've gone to all the federal agencies on these 14,000 properties and say, hey, do you guys want this one? Do you guys want that one? And the answer is no. The federal government have and maintain almost 1 million properties. And so this is a drop in a bucket, but this is a drop in a bucket that has no use right now, and the American taxpayer is still paying for maintaining. It's called holding cost, and the property is devaluing, daily. And one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is, let's say there is a building, a big building in downtown Miami, and it's vacant and it's not being used. That certainly doesn't help the other businesses in the area.
No, because again, empty buildings usually attract an element of homelessness, and
yep.
In some cases, depending on the location in the area, people who abuse drugs,
yep, crime,
vagrants. So again, when you have something like that, which becomes an eyesore, it also impacts the surrounding businesses, which may be very legitimate businesses that want people to come to their buildings, but yet they may be afraid to walk down that street because of this empty building, and who knows who's living in there, unlawfully. So you're right.
Well, even go a step further, that poor mom and pop restaurant that's down the corner, when this building was active and hundreds of people would go in and out every day, now there's no one. And so not only are people not coming from the building into your restaurant, but it's a factor where maybe people, just like you said, don't want to go in the area because it attracts the wrong element.
And it also it slows down the redevelopment.
Yes.
Of the area, particularly in the central business districts where cities are trying to revitalize the downtown area, as it is in Miami. Okay, but when you have something like that where building has been vacant, it doesn't help that cause of revitalizing downtown. The other thing, Doug, is that many state and local governments may have a need for these federal buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than buying from an individual at top price, or rather than seeking money to build or either a school or what have you, or government office, they can buy these from the government.
Well,
and maybe save significant amount of money.
If, let's say, we have a building and the private sector buys it, and all of a sudden now, instead of paying $1 million per year in holding costs that the taxpayers have, now you bring in, pick a number, $30 million, $40 million for this property that a private buyer, private sector buys. Now he pays taxes to the local municipalities. That's got to be a plus, because governments don't pay taxes, and so it doesn't help to the tax base, and so everybody else pays. Agreed?
Agreed, but much more than that.
Okay.
That's the first impact. But think of what this individual is going to do with that building. He's going to upgrade it, which means he's going to have to put in new windows, new flooring, new roof, redo the inside, which, again, what does that mean? It means buying materials, hiring labor. Okay? So now you get, that stimulates the economy. He's going to have to buy, maybe in some cases, furniture for that. So it creates a brand new economic stimulus.
Kind of a new mini redevelopment for the area. Exactly. Hey, believe it or not, the congressman who has pushed the bill to sell these properties, these 14,000, they're going to pick and choose, of course, but Congressman Dennison from California, he is going to be coming down to Miami in, I believe it's August 6th, Monday, Miami downtown. I think he's going to be talking about the David Dyer Federal Building in the United States Courthouse. I plan to be down there. I'm looking forward to seeing you. But this is their plan to basically go to these sites that are in disrepair and, get the press to focus on it and say, hey, here's this building that is not being used, and we are paying taxes to maintain it. Let's think about a new plan. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm hoping to see you and when I'm down there in Miami. Tell us one more time, how do people contact you, Resenda?
Yeah, it's Resenda Cavedo, Cushman and Wakefield. My phone number is 305-533-2877, and that's the best place to reach me.
Hey, Resenda, thank you so much. As always, you are a great interview. I look forward to seeing you down there, trying to get this government surplus property movement kind of progressing a little bit faster. You take care. Have a great weekend.
You too, Doug. Thank you.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
All right, we're back. We've just listened to Rosendo Cavero, Senior Director, Multifamily Advisory Group, Cushman & Wakefield of Florida and Miami, Florida, and very fascinating to talk to him about what's happening in Miami, South Florida, multifamily, the resurgence of that area, because he and I have also done real estate auctions for the government. We talked about the fact there's government surplus properties that are available throughout the country. Congressman Jeff Denham from California will be coming down to Miami to have a congressional hearing. And the thing is that he's going to be talking about these surplus properties. I believe he's going to be talking about the David W. Dyer Federal Building and United States Courthouse in Miami, which was a big old building that was used, and then they built a new courthouse. So this old courthouse is being not used, and it's in disrepair. It's abandoned, and so this is just one of these properties that are out there throughout the country that if they can be sold, number one, it saves us a lot of money as taxpayers as far as the cost of holding it each year. Number two, the monies that bring in can really help us on the deficit. I mean, my gosh, our federal budget and deficit is alarming, to say the least. Number three, if a new business person buys this for whatever reason, for a hotel, for a mixed use, for retail, whatever it might be, then just like Rosendo said, that person is going to have to hire new people. He's going to have to fix the building up, so he's going to contract services. He's going to start paying taxes to the local municipalities, which has got to help. I mean, yes, the federal government is in bad way as far as the budget, but the states and the cities and the counties are also looking for money. They would be well served to look at their properties and to see if they've got properties that they don't have any use for, what they're paying for it every year, which means what we're paying as taxpayers for, and think about selling it. And if they're going to sell it, this is an auction show. I believe auctions are the most transparent and the fairest way to sell government real estate property. Can you imagine if you were the government person in charge of selling this courthouse, and you get a whole bunch of people who say, hey, I want to buy it, I'll pay you X. Well, when they do that, all of them are going to do it in a different way. They're going to say, I'll give you so much deposit, but I need this much closing time. I will pay you this much money, but I need financing. So all of this kind of stuff is very important to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody's on the same playing field. It's very open, very honest, and very fair. And so you do not have the opportunity, again, if you're the government person that's responsible for the sale, to have somebody come back and say, you sold it for what? I would have paid more for that. And now I want to file a lawsuit because I think there was something shady going on. You don't want that to happen. That's not the way it needs to be done. It needs to be open, fair, transparent. Everybody sees it. The world knows about it. And the person who buys the property is the person who has their hand up in the air and the last one standing. That's the way that federal properties should be sold. This is the way that the RTC properties were sold. Many FDIC properties. I've worked for the FDIC, the RTC, the GSA, General Services Administration, the United States Marshal Service. All of these properties were sold by way of an auction, which is the way to do it. Hey, folks, I really appreciate you listening today. We will be back next Friday. It's going to be a great weekend. We've got July 4th coming up. You take care now.